Hi everyone. Um, I hope that everyone can see me and hear me. I'm just waiting to make sure that everyone's here. Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Payman Lim. I am speaking today from London. And so before we get started, I want to thank you, give a really big thank you to our sponsors, PDF Butler, who hires really tall people, and also R2 and the Trailblazer community, because without them, this sort of event, this amazing event, would not happen. So thank you to them for sure. So I hope you're in the right session. You're here to listen to me talk about how Salesforce partners run kick-ass discoveries, and you can too. So let me introduce a little bit about myself. And who am I? I am a mom. I write, I doodle, I draw, I observe human behavior a lot. I'm also a listener, a teacher, and a coach. And I also am a consultant and project manager. So let me walk you through a little bit about me. And because I'm a project manager, you will be treated to a Gantt chart. And that's how I tell stories. So let me tell you a little bit about that. I did my computer science degree in 1995, and since then, I've been in the partner ecosystem. You can see the orange blocks are Microsoft partners. That's where I've been all my life, well, until about 2014 when I moved over to Salesforce. So you can see the blue block, mostly in Salesforce, and I've been with several partners in the UK since then. Um, in 2020, I started my organization called Zenhow, and I deliver project management, project delivery, discovery, training for Salesforce partners. So broadly, you can see here, I have about 30 years of project delivery in the partner ecosystem. The first part as a technical and functional consultant. So I did everything from networking infrastructure, going on a desk, putting cables together, servers, installing printer drivers, installing all sorts of drivers, installing Microsoft Mail, if you know, MS Mail, Microsoft Exchange, Windows NT Server, all those sort of things. I was also a SQL DBA, and then towards the end, when Microsoft Dynamics came out, Microsoft CRM, that's where I jumped onto that bandwagon, and after that, I was a project and a program manager, and that's where I stayed for quite a while, and I really enjoyed because I really like telling people what to do. A key part of my identity is also for the last 15 years, I was a Samaritan's volunteer. And what that means is that I have spent time every week, about 3 hours every week, 3 to 5 hours to um, go on the phones and listen to people who are in emotional distress and feeling suicidal, and the art of active listening and just asking questions um, allows me to explore with my listener. And that's a skill that I coach in my teams, and that's what I take with me to help Salesforce partners to run discovery. So let's get to it. Here you go. How to run Salesforce discovery. Now, if I were to tell you what the list is, you can see that this is the list. So I would recommend structuring discovery as a paid piece of work instead of a pre-sales non-paid gig, because that just means that you're in a rush and you don't do things as well. Assemble a capable team, plan and prepare your workshops that includes your functional, your technical, your non-functionals like performance, volume-based testing, for example, and project delivery. So plan all of that. Ask great questions to gain insight and listen carefully to verbals and non-verbal. So that includes like body language and how engaged they are, the things that they might share with you, or maybe you need to kind of like gently poke a little further. Writing strong requirements in understanding that discovery is actually sales for implementation work. So this is what you might do if you were planning discovery and planning to do it for a Salesforce project. But I think you are here, and I'm hoping you're here to actually want to know how to run kick-ass script. That means really, really good ones, just like the way Salesforce partners do. So, with that in mind, and I'm hoping you grab a screenshot of that, let me dig a little deeper. And that's how we do things in a much more involved way that sets us up for success. So, the first thing I would say is I've got 5 tips for you. So, hopefully, you can grab that and it's easy to internalize and digest. So, let's start with the first one. I would say tip number one for any consultant is to turn on your internal debug mode. And what do I mean by that? So if you're a programmer, and I'm not a really good one, you turn on debug mode. That means you're actually investigating how the code works, why things went wrong, why things are going wrong. And so I would apply that to my thinking process. And again, this is something I would coach junior or graduate recruits who are just new to the consulting industry. So have a healthy level of self awareness and understand why we are doing things, why we are thinking things in a specific way. So, when you are self aware, you are open to learning new things. And you're also open to the idea that you can be wrong. And these two things allows you to grow and develop far beyond what you are capable of today. Otherwise, you might become complacent, arrogant, and you might turn out to be a jerk, and nobody likes working with jerks. So, how do we practice self awareness on discovery projects? These are the questions that you should be asking yourself because I ask myself these questions. What are my biggest challenges and fears on the project? What's my weakness? How do I work on them? How do I play on my strengths? What's the best can I do? How can I best work with my team? How do we manage conflicts? How do I manage my emotions? That's a big thing, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. How do I help myself and the team work at our best? And how do we create and stimulate creativity so that we can solve problems well? These are really, really key questions, and they help your team level up in a way that we can jointly solve big, wicked, impossible problems. Tip number two, be curious, non judgmental, and be a student of human nature. Let me dig into each one a little bit. So, be curious means looking at things with an open mind. Why do people do what they do? Sometimes we have a knee jerk reaction. Oh, because he's a jerk, or because she's selfish, or because they're greedy, or they don't like me. But when we're curious, we learn new things, we ask questions. But another layer on top of it is also we need to be non judgmental. We need to say, why is that person doing what they do? And what's stopping them from sharing their thought process with me? It is because people feel not safe that they don't want to tell you things. And that is a key thing about being non judgmental. Related to that is studying human nature and just really being curious so that we can have more empathy and more compassion about why people do what they do. Now, I have to say this that not everyone is born thinking, I want to be a bad person. I want to be greedy or selfish or mean or anything like that. No, people are driven by the experience that they've had and the values that they've internalized in the environment that they've grown up and developed in. With that in mind, the next slide is quite important, and that is why you should not take things personally. Because when you're interacting with someone and something happens, right? So, what you see, for example, is an emotional outburst is the meltdown, the explosion, the big emotions. Why did you do this so poorly? Why did you bomb that demo? How come your code has so much bugs? How come you didn't do this? How come you're not as good as you think you are? That's the gist of a lot of emotional outbursts. Now, why should you not take it personally? Sometimes when we're in the face of this sort of outburst, it feels irrational and over the top. Why is that person behaving that way? And it can leave you feeling anxious, upset, hurt, angry, and also maybe aggressive in return. But what you didn't see, right? What happened before that could be something else, something that you didn't see and you could not expect. Perhaps they've been dealing with bad things as well. Perhaps they just received a phone call that brought them a lot of sadness and grief and loss, and perhaps things they've been going through, caring for somebody that they love. So many things could happen. Just think about your life, about the things that has been happening that you're bearing on your shoulders that is painful and dark and heavy that you're not sharing with other people, but that comes out in the way that you are interacting. So flip that aside, flip that back to front, I mean, and understand that this could happen with the other person as well. So perhaps that outburst isn't really about you at all. And what we need to do is to master our emotions and don't react straight away. Don't take things personally. Everyone I wrote there, maybe fighting a battle no one else can see. I would hazard a guess that everyone is fighting battles that no one else can see. There are lots of things that you're not going to share for your own reasons, and there are lots of things I don't share because of my own reasons. So when I have my intense emotional outbursts, obviously I say sorry, but I'm hoping that the people that I do that to also understand that our shoulders are only so wide, and sometimes the things that we carry are a lot more than our shoulders can bear, and it just comes out. So, empathy and compassionate understanding goes a long way to creating a great, strong relationship. So, that was tip number 3. Tip number 4 for a consultant, I would say be ruthless about non value add activities. And I really love this. Stephen Covey, he wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I would say apply that to highly effective consultants. Now, the one that I love the best and the one that I think I consciously apply almost all the time is the quadrants. We have the urgent, important, um, cross section of this quadrant. Let's very quickly zip through what they look like. So, in the context of a discovery, you will have the urgent and important cross section. These are the things that we absolutely need to get right now in order to do the discovery properly. So, reviewing the client artifacts, the documents that they provide for you, reviewing the statement of work, prepping your questions, workshops, and attendees to make sure that you run them properly. Things that are not urgent but important, also to make sure that we've got the deliverable templates properly formatted so that we can tell a story well and that we can take our audience along the way to understand. Discovery is where we understand how you do things right now so that we can plan and design how we can use Salesforce to leverage the functionalities that's on the platform to help address your pain points specifically that will then deliver you long-term business value, not just the things that we find sexy, but the things that actually make a difference to your business. So we have to do that properly. The urgent but not important things are all the stuff that we know about. The notification, the ones on the phones, the one on Slack, the ones where someone tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, do you have a second to look at my problem and not your problem? Those are urgent. They feel urgent, like the ringtone of a mobile phone, like the ding of the Slack channel, like the pings of your instant messaging device and your email notification. All those feel really urgent because they say, tend to me now, look at me now, read me now. Um, but a lot of times they're not that important. So it's understanding what those look like and how they take away the time that you have from actually doing something doing your discovery properly. Last one, we all know these are the not urgent, not important things, all the things we like to do for leisure. Very quickly on this note, though, what feels like not important and not urgent may sometimes be important but not urgent. So sometimes after a really stressful encounter, stressful day, stressful interaction with a client, you may need to decompress by just binging on Netflix for a while. And that's okay, as long as you mindfully, thoughtfully make that decision and not just do that as a thing that you do when you're bored all the time. So, in other words, it's understanding how to prioritize the activities, especially discovery activities, and we cut down those that are not important. So, mastering time management. During the discovery, there's lots and lots of activities, and it's understanding which one is more important than the rest. No, not finally, sorry. So, here, there you go. Why consultants should master time management. And that's to make sure that we are able to prioritize. We can sharpen our negotiation skills, like what goes in, what goes out. If this one's going in, what you're going to deprioritize, so that we can confidently move the project forward. One of the things that inexperienced consultants find is that they can get dragged into side distractions, not only by yourself or your team, but also your clients while you're running your discovery. So you need to be on top of this tip number 4, which is mastering time management, and it's really, really important skill to have. And finally, tip number 5, we need to master the art of persuasion and influence. As a project manager, I'm always asking things from my team. Please, can you do this? Please, can you do that? And if my team member's really good, they'll say, hey, project manager, have a look at my really long to-do list. And sometimes what I will do is I'll find out what their favorite thing is, and I will persuade them to actually bump my task at the top of the to-do list. I am cheeky like that. I can get away with that. But also at the same time, as project manager, I bear the responsibility of my team's reprioritize workload. So, in short, influencing and persuasion skill helps you get the outcome that you want. Let's quickly recap the 5 tips. Number 1, turn your internal debug mode on. Number 2, be curious, non-judgmental student of human nature. Don't take things personally. That's really key. Master time management. Remember Stephen Covey's quadrant of time management? And the last one is the art of persuasion and influence. We're actually talking about emotional intelligence here, and the best Salesforce partner nurtures and cultivates emotional intelligence in their consultants. So if we look at it again, turning internal debug mode on means having self-awareness. Self-awareness is one of the key tenets of emotional intelligence, because without this, you can't grow. I was having a conversation with another project manager, and it was a really interesting question. And is the question was that we were discussing at the time is there such a thing as an uncoachable person? When when we look at the times we had to let go of people where the reason isn't due to competency in their domain. So if you say you're really, really good at flows, and I give you a story that has to do with flows and you can't perform and you can't tell me why you can't, That's a competency thing. If you tell me that you can run a workshop and gather requirements, and I say that you can't, that is a competency thing. But the other part or other big reason why we let people go is where they're not able to take in feedback, reflect, internalize, understand what that means, and grow and learn and develop and do things that extend the reach of their strengths and close the gap of the weaknesses that they've identified that they need to work on. Now, we don't always need to work on all our weaknesses. For example, I'm really, really bad at selling. I might want to outsource that to somebody else who can sell so that I can focus on the things that I'm good at. But the key thing is being self aware and understanding what your strengths and what your weaknesses are and making conscious decision on what you want to work on, what you want to um, get better at. So that's self awareness, and that's the very first thing. The second thing, being curious, non judgmental student of human nature, is social awareness. So the first one is internalize. How do I make the insides of me as best that I can into an engine that will improve every day? Number two is the social awareness, is your interaction with other people, because that's the thing that creates a team environment that allows you, and I love to use this phrase because it is very accurate, how we can do something well alone. What was the phrase? If you want to do something well, you do it yourself. If you want to, sorry, let's try again. Mm, I'm mangling this really badly. But if you want to go far, you need a team. You need a great team. That's what I'm trying to get at. So being curious, non-judgmental student of human nature allows you to hone in your social awareness skill. And that is really, really good at making connections with people so that collectively you can work on and solve difficult, wicked, impossible problems. The third tip is to don't take things personally. And let me move the slide. Don't take things personally. And this talks about self regulation, mastering your emotional knee jerk reactions, because it puts together number one and number two together your internal self awareness and social awareness skills so that you can work out how people are struggling or trying to get through their life and trying to get to where they want to go to. And they have their own battles and obstacles that we're never going to see. And how they show themselves is a result of all of those. And if we are able to understand that, we can then be more compassionate and more empathetic human beings. And that just makes us better all around. Time management. So I'm flipping from like the human nature to the consulting specific skills. And that is making sure that we're able to prioritize well, because that's the thing that separates us from just working in an organization where internal politics might take its time to get decisions done. As consultants, we can't. We just have to be really efficient and really able to get what we need when we need it. And that kind of ties into the last one, which is mastering the art of persuasion and influence. Again, this is also social intelligence. It's an extension and a culmination of all of this, all the skills that you see there: self awareness, social awareness, self regulation or emotional mastery, self motivation, and social intelligence. All of that put together, and you will have, that's what you go. The secret of running successful kick ass discovery is emotional intelligence. So that's another level over and above the the list that I showed you right in the beginning, which is, prep for this and make sure you do this and make sure you do that. Those are tactical stuff. The the the, the easy things. The easy things is to follow the recipe book to bake that cake. The thing that takes you one step further is the emotional intelligence, is a thing that you add on top of just following the recipe and the ingredients to make the cake, to make it an outstanding delicacy, an outstanding dessert, the thing, the love, the care, that sort of layer that goes over and above just following the recipe is what helps you make an outstanding, successful, kick ass discovery. And that takes me to the end of my session. And these are all my QR codes. This is where you can connect with me on LinkedIn, on Twitter. If you really like my doodles, and I have done a lot over the years. I started doing this in 2020. I tried to challenge myself to do a post in a picture every day. I don't get to it all the time, but I do have a huge amount, a body of work that you can find on Instagram that you can scroll and just look at the pictures. It's also on LinkedIn, but it's a little bit more difficult to look. But my newsletter comes out every Monday. Feel free to subscribe. I talk about things in detail. In the last one, I was talking about the difference between a project manager, portfolio manager, program manager, and a product owner, for example, product manager, I think it was. So there you go. That is the end of my session. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you had any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. I'm still trying to get to know about Hopin. Any questions, any comments, feel free to ask me. If not, I am 2 minutes early in finishing my session. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that.